There is a very specific kind of vulnerability that only happens in a house at 3 o'clock in the morning. The entire world outside is completely dark. The streetlights cast long, still shadows through the blinds, and the only sound is the low, rhythmic hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen. My name is Ethan Vance. I am 28, and exactly 4 weeks ago, I was lying on the worn leather couch in our shared living room, buried under a heavy fleece blanket. I had fallen asleep while reading an article, leaving the television on mute. I was drifting in that light, hazy state of half-sleep, where you can hear the world around you, but your body feels too heavy to move. The front door clicked open, very quietly. It was my roommate, Clara. She slipped her shoes off at the entrance, took a deep, shaky breath in the dark, and walked into the kitchen to pour a glass of water. She thought I was completely dead to the world. She thought the lounge was empty. She pulled out her phone, dialed a number, and waited. When the call connected, she leaned against the kitchen counter, just 10 feet away from my couch, and whispered a sentence to her mother that completely shattered the foundation of our entire living arrangement. "I can't keep pretending, Mom. He's going to find out why I really moved in here." We had been roommates for 10 months. We had a perfectly comfortable, entirely platonic dynamic. We split the utilities, argued mildly over whose turn it was to buy groceries, and lived completely separate lives. But as I lay frozen on that couch, staring blindly into the dark fabric of the cushions, I realized something terrifying. Our entire friendship, from the day she randomly answered my classified ad, was built on a calculated secret. Before I tell you exactly what else she whispered into that phone, and the crushing truth she was keeping from me, please take a brief second to like this video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you genuinely love deep, slow-burn stories. Also, drop your current city and local time in the comments below. I personally read every single one to see where you guys are listening from. Now, let's go back to the afternoon. Clara first walked into my life 10 months ago. My life was in a state of quiet transition. My previous roommate had broken his lease early to move overseas, leaving me with a 2-bedroom apartment that was far too expensive for my single salary. I was stressed, working late hours at an architectural firm, and desperate to find someone stable to share the space. I posted an ad online, expecting a wave of awkward interviews with strangers. Clara was the 3rd person to view the apartment. She arrived on a rainy Thursday afternoon, wearing a simple trench coat with paint smudges on the sleeves. She was an illustrator, quiet, with calm grey eyes, and a way of looking at a room like she was measuring the distance between objects. She walked through the kitchen, looked at the spare bedroom, and then turned to me with a small, remarkably gentle smile. "The light in here is perfect for drawing," she said. "I can pay the first 3 months of rent up front, if that helps." It did help, more than she knew. She moved her boxes in the following Saturday, and within 2 weeks, we had fallen into an incredibly easy routine. Clara was the perfect roommate. She was exceptionally clean. She never brought loud guests home, and she had a dry, grounding sense of humor that always seemed to diffuse my stress after a brutal day at the firm. We would occasionally cook dinner together or sit in the living room, working on our respective projects in a comfortable, unspoken silence. But looking back now, there were tiny signs, micro shifts that I should have paid more attention to if I hadn't been so caught up in my own routine. Sometimes I would catch her looking at me when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Not a romantic look, but something heavier, an expression filled with a strange, deep curiosity, mixed with a hint of sorrow. Whenever I asked her about her family, she would instantly pivot the conversation back to my life, asking detailed questions about my childhood, my parents, and why I had chosen to live so far away from my hometown. I thought she was just being a good listener. I had no idea she was collecting pieces of a story she already knew. Which brings me back to 3 o'clock on that Friday morning. Clara's voice was different on the phone. The calm, independent tone she used during the day was entirely gone. It was replaced by a raw, fragile texturing, the sound of someone who had been carrying a crushing weight for far too long. "I know it's been a year, Mom," Clara whispered into the phone, her glass of water clinking softly against the counter. "But being in this apartment, seeing him every single day, it's starting to break me." There was a long pause. I could faintly hear the buzzy sound of her mother's voice vibrating through the phone's earpiece, urgent and demanding. Clara let out a shaky, ragged breath. "No, he doesn't suspect a thing. He thinks I'm just a normal tenant. He thinks we met by pure coincidence." My heart gave a sudden, violent thud against my ribs. I pulled the fleece blanket tighter against my chest, terrified that the rustle of the fabric would give me away. My mind raced through every interaction we had ever had, trying to find the lie. "You don't understand, Mom." Clara's voice dropped even lower, shifting into a strained, painful hush. "He has his brother's eyes. Every time he looks up from his blueprints, every time he smiles, it feels like a ghost is sitting in the room with me. If I tell him that my brother was the driver in the accident that night, he will never look at me the same way again." The air in the lounge suddenly felt completely freezing. My hands went numb beneath the blanket. 2 years ago, my younger brother, Julian, had been killed in a hit-and-run accident on a dark highway outside the city. The driver of the other vehicle had fled the scene, and the police had never been able to trace the registration. It was the defining tragedy of my family's life. It was the reason I had packed my bags, left my hometown, and moved to this isolated apartment, trying to escape the heavy, suffocating grief that filled my parents' house. And now, the sister of the person who caused that crash was sleeping in the bedroom down the hall. "I didn't track him down to hurt him, Mom," Clara pleaded into the dark kitchen, her voice breaking completely. I needed to see if he was okay. After Julian died, our family fell apart too. My brother couldn't live with the guilt. He took his own life 6 months later. I just needed to look at Ethan, to see if he was surviving, to make sure his life wasn't entirely ruined. But hiding this from him, it's killing me." Another long, agonizing silence filled the kitchen. Her mother was talking again, but Clara wasn't listening. "I'm going to tell him," Clara whispered decisively, wiping a tear from her cheek with the back of her hand. "Not tonight, but soon. He deserves the truth, even if it means he throws me out of his life forever." She hung up the phone. I heard the soft click of her glass being placed in the sink, and then the quiet, dragging sound of her footsteps moving down the hallway. Her bedroom door closed, and the apartment returned to that heavy, freezing 3 o'clock silence. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I lay on that leather couch until the sky outside turned a pale, cold gray. The world looked exactly the same, but everything inside my life had shifted. The girl who had made me coffee, the girl who had helped me clean the lounge, was linked to the darkest night of my existence. At 7:30 a.m., I heard her bedroom door open. I forced myself to sit up, rubbing my eyes, pretending I had just woken up on the couch. Clara walked into the kitchen, wearing her usual oversized sweater, her hair tied back in a loose bun. She looked entirely normal, except for the slight, faint puffiness around her eyes. "Morning," she said softly, setting the kettle on the stove. "You look like you slept horribly, Ethan. Want me to make you a cup of coffee?" I looked at her, really looked at her. For 10 months, I had seen a friend. Now, I saw a girl who was drowning in the exact same ocean of grief that I was. The anger I expected to feel, the burning rage against her family, wasn't there. There was only a profound, heavy sadness. "Yeah," I said, my voice sounding thick and gravelly in the quiet morning light. "Coffee sounds good, Clara." She smiled, that same gentle, protective smile she had given me on the day we met. She didn't know that the wall between our secrets had already collapsed. She didn't know that the acting was over for both of us, and that the real conversation was about to begin. Sometimes, the people we think are strangers are the ones holding the other half of our broken stories. Now, I want to ask you a direct question. If you discovered your roommate was hiding a massive, devastating connection to your past, would you confront them immediately, or would you wait for them to find the courage to tell you the truth? Write the word confront or the word wait in the comments section below. I want to read your personal thoughts on this kind of emotional weight. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more long-form, slow-burn narrative stories, and check the description for my next upload. Thank you for listening until the very end. I'll see you in the next video.